The day the sky turned dark was the day everything changed for Earth. Admiral stood at the window of the Global Defense Command Center in Seoul. She was 52 years old with silver streaks in her black hair. Her eyes were tired but sharp. She had spent 30 years preparing for threats that might never come. Now, the threat had arrived. Outside the window, the afternoon sun had disappeared. Not because of clouds, not because of an eclipse. The sun was blocked by ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They hung in the sky like a ceiling of black metal. Each ship was the size of a mountain. Together, they covered the entire horizon. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Minyu from his station. His voice was shaking. "We are receiving a transmission. It is on all frequencies, every radio, every television, every phone on Earth." Turned away from the window, put it on the main screen. The large screen on the wall flickered. Then a face appeared. It was not a human face. The creature had gray skin that looked like wet stone. Its eyes were yellow with no pupils. It had no nose, just two small holes. When it spoke, its mouth opened sideways instead of up and down. "Creatures of this small world," the alien said. Its voice was translated into English, but the words sounded wrong. Cold, empty. "I am High Commander of the Empire. We have watched your kind for many cycles. You are young. You are weak. You are nothing." Crossed her arms. Around her, officers and technicians had stopped working. Everyone was watching the screen. "The Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds," continued. "We have ended civilizations older than your species. We have burned planets that refuse to serve us. Today, we give you a choice." The alien paused. Its yellow eyes seemed to look directly at through the screen. "You have 48 of your hours. In that time, your leaders will announce surrender. Your weapons will be destroyed. Your people will become workers for the Empire. You will serve us until we decide you are no longer useful." Leaned closer to the camera. "If you do not surrender, we will demonstrate our power. We will choose one of your cities. We will turn it to ash. Then we will give you another 48 hours. We will keep destroying until you learn your place." The transmission ended. The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody in the command center spoke. Could hear people breathing. She could hear the hum of computers. She could hear her own heartbeat. Admiral Minyu said quietly, "What do we do?" Did not answer right away. She walked to her desk and sat down. She looked at the photos on her desk. One showed her daughter, who was a doctor in. Another showed her son, who was a teacher in. She had not seen in months. She thought about what the alien had said. Workers for the Empire. Serve until you are no longer useful. She knew what that meant. Slavery. Death when they grew tired of humans. The end of everything her people had built. "Contact Commander," said finally. "Tell him to come here immediately and get me a line to the other defense commands. America, Europe, China, Russia, everyone." "Yes, Admiral." Within 2 hours, the command center was full of faces on screens. Military leaders from every major nation. Presidents and prime ministers joined the call. The United Nations Secretary General was there too. Everyone looked scared. Everyone wanted answers. "We need to discuss our options," said the American general. "Maybe we can negotiate, buy some time." "Negotiate what?" asked the Russian commander. "They want slaves, they want everything." "Perhaps if we show we are peaceful," suggested a European diplomat. "If we prove we are not a threat." "They do not care if we are peaceful," interrupted. Her voice was calm but firm. "They have already decided what we are. To them we are insects. You do not negotiate with insects. You step on them." The room fell silent. "Then what do you suggest?" asked the Chinese general. Stood up, she looked at each face on the screens. Leaders of nations that had fought each other for centuries. People who had never agreed on anything. Now they all faced the same enemy. "I suggest we fight," said simply. "Fight?" The American general shook his head. "Admiral, did you see those ships? We do not even know what weapons they have. Our best technology might be toys to them. Maybe, agreed. But here is what I know. Humans have faced death before. We have faced plagues that killed half of us. We have faced wars that burned our cities. We have faced ice ages, famines, and disasters. Every time someone said we would die. Every time we survived. She pointed at the dark sky outside the window. Those aliens have conquered 1,000 worlds. Good for them. But they have never conquered Earth. They have never faced humans. You want us to risk extinction, the diplomat said, for pride. No, replied. I want us to risk death for a chance to live free, because if we surrender, we are already dead. We just will not know it yet. Commander entered the room. He was a tall man with a scar on his chin from an old training accident. He had commanded ground forces for 20 years. He walked to his side and looked at the screens. I heard the transmission, said. I have already started moving troops to defensive positions. My soldiers are ready to fight. Your soldiers will die, someone said. Smiled, it was not a happy smile. Everyone dies. The question is what you die for. I will not die on my knees. Nodded at him, then turned back to the screens. I am not asking anyone to follow me. Each nation must choose for itself. But Earth's answer must be united. If even one country surrenders, they will use that country against the rest of us. The faces on the screens looked at each other, could see the fear in their eyes, but she could also see something else. Anger, pride, the same fire that had pushed humans out of caves and into the stars. One by one they voted. America voted to fight. Russia voted to fight. China voted to fight. Every nation, one after another, made the same choice. When the vote was finished, allowed herself a small smile. Then we are agreed, prepare your forces, move your civilians underground, we have 48 hours. What will our response to the be? Minyu asked. Looked at the dark sky one more time. Somewhere up there, the aliens were waiting for humans to beg. They were expecting tears and surrender. They were going to be disappointed. Our response will be 2 words, said, come closer. The message was sent at midnight. 2 words in every human language broadcast toward the alien fleet. Come closer. For several hours there was no response. The ships hung in the sky, silent and still. Perhaps they were confused. Perhaps they were angry. No one had ever spoken to them this way before. Commander did not wait to find out. He had work to do. The Global Defense Command had transformed into a war room. Maps covered every wall. Red dots showed ship positions. Blue dots showed human military bases. There were many more red dots than blue ones. We need to move fast, said to his team. Every minute we waste is a minute they can prepare. Captain stood beside him. She was 35 years old with short hair and quick eyes. She had been a fighter pilot before she was promoted to lead the new Space Combat Division. She had never fought aliens before. Nobody had. Our orbital defense platforms are armed, reported. We have 47 satellites with weapons. Most of them were built for missile defense. We modified them last year for other threats. Nodded, what about ground forces? Moving now. Every major city is setting up defensive positions. Underground shelters are being prepared. We are telling people it is a drill, but most of them know the truth. Through the window, could see the streets of Seoul. Cars were stuck in traffic as families tried to leave the city. Parents carried children on their shoulders. Old people walked with suitcases. Everyone was scared, but nobody was giving up. My grandmother survived the war 70 years ago, said quietly. She used to tell me stories. Bombs falling every night. No food, no medicine. She was just a little girl, but she survived. And now we face something worse, said. Maybe, but we are still here. That means something. A young officer named ran up to them. She was only 23, fresh from training. Her hands were shaking as she held a tablet computer. Commander, we have analyzed the alien ships, said. Our scientists have been studying them since they arrived. Tell me. Their shields are strong, very strong. Our normal weapons cannot break through, but, she paused, checking her notes. But their shields seem to use a lot of power. When they fire their weapons, their shields get weaker for a few seconds. Leaned forward, how many seconds? Maybe 3 or 4, that is our window. Smiled, 3 seconds is enough, if we hit them at the right moment. There is more, continued. Their ships are large, but they move slowly. They are not built for quick combat. They are built to destroy planets from far away if we can get close to them. Then their size becomes a weakness, finished. Good work. Send this information to every military base on Earth. Across the planet, humans were preparing in their own ways. In the United States, factories that made cars started making weapons instead. Workers who had never held a gun learned to shoot. Retired soldiers came back to help train the young ones. In China, engineers worked through the night to build new missiles. They did not sleep. They did not eat. They knew that every rocket they built might save 1,000 lives. In Europe, scientists shared information freely. Old secrets were forgotten. Countries that had been rivals worked together as one team. A German physicist and a French engineer solved problems that had seemed impossible just days before. In Africa, communities gathered to protect each other. Villages built shelters in the earth. Hunters who knew the land became scouts. Every person had a role. In South America, generals opened their emergency supplies. Weapons that had been stored for decades were cleaned and distributed. Old planes were fixed and made ready to fly. And in Korea, Admiral made her final preparations. They have not responded to our message, she told her officers. They probably think we are joking, or maybe they think we are stupid. Are we stupid? Someone asked. Almost laughed. Probably, but stupid people have won wars before. She pulled up a map on the main screen. It showed Earth from space, surrounded by the alien fleet. Here is what we know. They have about 800 ships around Earth. Their flagship is the largest one, in the center of the formation. That is where High Commander is commanding from. 800 ships, repeated. We have maybe 200 aircraft that can reach orbit, and 47 defense satellites. Not good odds, admitted. No, agreed, but we have something they do not have. What is that? Pointed at the window. Outside, despite the alien ships blocking the sun, lights were turning on all over Seoul, families cooking dinner, children doing homework, old people playing games, life continuing even in the shadow of death. We have something to fight for, said. Those aliens conquer because they are strong. We fight because we have no other choice. That makes us dangerous. 30 hours remained before the deadline. In the underground command center gathered his best officers. They stood around a table covered with papers and tablets. We cannot win a straight fight, admitted. If we try to match them ship for ship, weapon for weapon, we will lose, so we will not fight that way. What do you suggest? Asked General, an older man with white hair. We hit them where they do not expect. Fast attacks, then retreat. We make them chase us. We wear them down. We show them that conquering Earth will cost more than it is worth. Guerrilla warfare, said slowly, in space. And on the ground when they land, because they will land. They want slaves, not a dead planet, so they will have to come down here eventually. And when they do, every street will be a trap. Every building will be a fortress. Raised her hand. My pilots are ready. We trained for years thinking we might fight other countries. Fighting aliens is just a bigger challenge. Your pilots are the best in the world, told her. But many of them will die. You need to understand that. Nodded, her face was serious. We all understand that, sir. We talked about it last night. Every pilot wrote letters to their families, just in case. The room was quiet for a moment. I wrote a letter too, said. To my wife and my son, I told them why I have to do this, why we all have to do this. What did you tell them? Asked softly. I told them that some things are worth more than living. Freedom, dignity, the chance for your children to grow up without chains. If we surrender, we might survive longer, but we would not be human anymore. We would just be animals waiting to die. The officers nodded. They all felt the same way. Admiral entered the room. She looked tired, but her eyes were bright. I just received reports from around the world, she announced. Every nation is ready. Every soldier, every pilot, every civilian who can hold a weapon. 8 billion people, united for the first time in history. She looked at each officer in turn. They think they know what we are. They have conquered 1,000 worlds, so they think all species are the same. They expect us to beg, to surrender, to accept our place as slaves. Smiled. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. They are about to learn that humans are different. We do not know how to give up. We do not know how to accept defeat. Even when we should run, we fight. Even when we cannot win, we try. She checked her watch. 24 hours remained. The waiting is over, declared. Send our forces to attack positions. When that clock hits 0, we show the what humans are made of. Stood straight and saluted. Yes, Admiral. Around the world, engines started. Pilots climbed into cockpits. Soldiers loaded their weapons. Scientists activated their machines. The had demanded war. Humans were about to answer. Captain sat in the cockpit of her fighter. The controls glowed blue in the darkness. Through the window, she could see stars, and beyond the stars, she could see the enemy. The fleet looked even bigger from up here. Each ship was a mountain of black metal. Their surfaces were covered with weapons that glowed red like angry eyes. They filled the space around Earth like a wall. All pilots check in, said into her radio. Wolf 2 ready. Wolf 3 ready. Wolf 4 ready. One by one, her squadron reported. 12 pilots, 12 small ships against hundreds of giants. It sounded like madness. It probably was madness, but had never been very good at being careful. Remember the plan, she told her pilots. We hit fast, we hit hard, we do not try to be heroes. Get in, do damage, get out. Save the heroics for the movies. What if we cannot get out? Asked Wolf 5. His name was. He was the youngest pilot in the squadron, only 24 years old. Then you take as many of them with you as you can. The squadron flew in silence for a few minutes. Earth grew smaller behind them. The alien fleet grew larger ahead. Command, this is Wolf Leader, reported. We are in position, waiting for the signal. Admiral's voice came through the radio. Copy, Wolf Leader. All attack groups are in position. The clock is at 0 in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Took a deep breath. She thought about her parents in, her brother in, the friends she had grown up with. All of them were down there, looking up at the sky, waiting to see what would happen. She could not let them down. 2 minutes announced. Around Earth, other squadrons were waiting. American pilots over the Atlantic, Russian pilots over Siberia, Chinese pilots over the Pacific. For the first time in history, every nation's military was working as one force. 1 minute. His hands were steady on the controls. Her heart was beating fast, but her mind was calm. She had trained her whole life for a moment like this. Not exactly this moment. Nobody could have trained for aliens, but close enough. 30 seconds. She activated her weapons. The missiles under her wings hummed with power. Her lasers charged and ready. Everything she had against everything they had. 10 seconds, 9, 8, 7. Pushed her throttle forward. Her fighter began to move. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, attack. The first strike began. Across the planet, hundreds of human ships launched toward the alien fleet at the same time. They came from every direction. North, south, east, west, up, down. A swarm of small, fast attackers against slow, giant defenders. Led her squadron straight at the nearest ship. It was a cruiser, maybe 2 kilometers long. Its weapons began to turn toward her. "Spread out," she ordered. "Make them choose targets." Her pilots scattered. Instead of 12 ships flying together, now there were 12 ships flying in different directions. The alien weapons tried to track them, but humans were faster. "They are firing," Wolf 3 reported. Red beams cut through space. One beam passed just meters from Swing. "Stay calm, wait for the opening." The shields glowed bright as the ship prepared to fire again. This was the moment had told them about. When the aliens used their weapons, their shields weakened. "Now," shouted, "all missiles fire." 12 ships released their missiles at the same time. 48 warheads flew toward the cruiser. The alien shields flickered, still weak from firing. The first missile hit and exploded. Then the second. Then the third. Fire bloomed across the cruiser's hull. Metal twisted and broke. One of the weapon towers fell away, spinning into space. "Direct hit," Wolf 7 cheered. "Do not celebrate yet," warned. "More coming." 2 more ships were moving toward them. Their weapons were already charging. Pulled her fighter into a sharp turn, pushing herself back into her seat. "Wolf Squadron, retreat to Point Alpha. Reload and prepare for second attack." Her pilots followed her order. They turned and flew toward Earth, using the planet's gravity to boost their speed. The ships tried to follow, but they were too slow. By the time they reached the attack point, the humans were already gone. "Wolf Leader to Command," reported. "First strike successful. 1 enemy cruiser damaged. We lost no ships." "Excellent work," Wolf Leader replied. "Other squadrons are reporting similar results. We have damaged at least 30 enemy ships in the first wave." 30 ships out of 800. It was not much, but it was a start. They were not ready for this kind of attack. They had conquered 1,000 worlds, but most of those worlds had surrendered without fighting. The ones that did fight had tried to match the strength against strength. Those worlds had lost quickly. Humans were different. Humans did not fight fair. On the flagship, High Commander watched the battle with growing anger. His yellow eyes narrowed as he saw the damage reports. "These creatures are insects," he growled to his officers. "How are insects hurting us?" "They are fast, Commander," one officer explained. "Faster than we expected, and they attack in groups from different directions. Our weapons cannot track them all. Then we destroy their planet. Show them what happens when insects bite." "Commander, our orders are to take this world intact. The Empire wants the workers and resources." Slammed his fist on the console. "I do not care about orders. These humans have insulted us. They will pay." But before could give the command, another wave of attacks began. This time, the humans came from below, using Earth's shadow to hide their approach. They struck the supply ships at the back of the fleet, ships that carried fuel and ammunition. Explosions lit up the darkness. 3 supply ships broke apart. "Commander," an officer shouted, "we have lost the fuel convoy." His gray face turned darker. "Send fighters to intercept them. Destroy every human ship." Fighters launched from the main ships. They were bigger than human fighters, with stronger weapons, but they were also slower and less maneuverable. Captain saw them coming. "Wolf Squadron, we have company. Stick to the plan. Do not engage directly." Her pilots split up again. The fighters tried to chase them, but it was like trying to catch birds with your hands. Every time an alien got close to one human, another human would attack from behind. "Wolf 2 on your tail," warned. Wolf 2, a pilot named, rolled her ship sharply. The fighter behind her overshot and flew past, was waiting for it. "Goodbye," she said, and fired her lasers. The alien fighter exploded in a ball of orange fire. "Thanks," Captain said. "Keep moving, do not slow down." The battle continued for 3 hours, wave after wave of human attacks. Each wave did a little more damage. Each wave lost a few pilots, but the humans kept coming. By the end of the first day, they had lost 52 ships. The humans had lost 114 pilots. It was not a victory, but it was not a defeat either. In the command center on Earth, Admiral studied the battle reports. Her face was tired but determined. "Casualties?" she asked. 114 pilots confirmed dead, reported. Another 30 missing, probably also dead. But we hurt them, Admiral. We hurt them badly. They will adapt. They will learn from this. So will we. Nodded, she looked at the map showing the alien fleet. There were fewer red dots than before. Not many fewer, but some. Tell the squadrons to rest and rearm. We attack again in 6 hours. Yes, Admiral. As Left walked to the window, the sky was still dark with alien ships, but now she could see fires burning up there, ships leaking atmosphere and fuel, proof that humans could fight back. You wanted war, she whispered to the aliens. Now you have it. Somewhere above Earth, Captain was landing her damaged fighter. Her fuel was almost empty. Her missiles were all gone. One of her wings had a hole from an enemy laser. But she was alive, and tomorrow she would fight again. She climbed out of her cockpit and looked up at the stars. They were still there, waiting. They had not been destroyed. They had not run away. But they had been hurt, and that was something they had never experienced before. This is just the beginning, said to herself. She was right. The first strike was over, but the war had just started. They fell from the sky like metal rain. Lieutenant watched them through his binoculars. He was standing on the roof of a tall building in Seoul, surrounded by his soldiers. Below them, the streets were empty. Every civilian had been moved underground days ago. Here they come, said, everyone to positions. The soldiers moved quickly. They had trained for this moment. They knew exactly what to do. The first landed in the main square, crushing cars under its weight. The door opened and soldiers poured out. They were tall, almost 3 meters each. Their gray skin was covered with black armor. They carried weapons that glowed with red light. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Hold fire, ordered through his radio. Wait until they are in the kill zone. The soldiers began to spread out. They moved carefully, scanning the empty buildings with their yellow eyes. They had expected resistance. They had expected humans waiting with guns. They did not expect what happened next. The ground exploded, and his engineers had spent the last 3 days filling the streets with bombs, hidden under roads, inside abandoned cars, behind walls and under windows. They walked right into the trap. Fire and metal flew everywhere. Alien soldiers were thrown into the air. Their armor could stop bullets, but it could not stop a bomb exploding under their feet. Now shouted, "Open fire!" From every rooftop, from every window, from every hidden position, humans began to shoot. Rifles cracked. Machine guns roared. Rockets flew toward the enemy. They tried to fight back. They fired their red weapons at the buildings. Walls exploded. Glass shattered. But the humans kept moving, running from one position to another, never staying still long enough to be targeted. Fired his rifle until it was empty. Then he grabbed another rifle and fired that too. Around him, his soldiers did the same. "Keep hitting them," he yelled. "Do not let them organize." The street became a nightmare for them. They had expected to land, collect the slaves, and leave. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a city that wanted them dead. One officer tried to lead a group toward a building. A rocket hit them before they took 10 steps. Another group tried to retreat to there. Snipers shot them one by one. After 30 minutes, the first wave was destroyed. Allowed himself a moment to breathe. His hands were shaking. His ears were ringing from the noise, but they had one, for now. "Report," he said into his radio. "Building 4 secure, 12 enemy dead. Building 7 secure, 20 enemy dead. Street 9, we lost 3 soldiers, but the enemy is eliminated." Nodded, casualties. He had known there would be casualties. 3 soldiers dead meant 3 families who would never see their loved ones again. But the aliens had lost far more. More incoming, someone warned. Looked up, the sky was filled with more ships descending toward the city. The first wave had been a test. Now the real invasion was beginning. Fall back to secondary positions, ordered. Reset the traps, get ready for round 2. The same scene was happening across the planet. In New York, Captain Maria led her unit through underground tunnels. The thought they controlled the surface. They did not know about the subway systems that connected every part of the city. Humans would appear, attack, and vanish before the aliens could respond. In London, old buildings that had survived centuries of war became fortresses again. Snipers hid in church towers. Soldiers used sewers to move unseen. They could not take a single block without paying for it in blood. In Tokyo, engineers had built new weapons from everyday items. Drones carried bombs. Trucks were turned into missiles. Even simple cars became traps, filled with explosives and left in the streets. They had never seen anything like it. On the flagship, High Commander was losing his patience. Reports came in constantly, and none of them were good. "We have lost 4,000 soldiers in ground combat," an officer reported. "Our landing zones are under constant attack. We cannot establish a secure position anywhere on the planet." "How is this possible?" demanded. "These creatures have no advanced technology. They are primitives." "They fight differently, Commander. They do not stand and face us. They hide and strike. When we push them, they disappear. When we stop to rest, they attack again." Stared at the holographic map of Earth. Red dots showed positions, but those red dots kept disappearing, replaced by symbols meaning destroyed or retreated. "Send more troops. Overwhelm them with numbers." "Commander, we have already sent 30% of our ground forces. If we send more, our ships will be undefended." "The ships are fine. The human space attacks have stopped." "Not stopped, Commander. They are resting. Our scouts report that human pilots are taking shifts. While some sleep, others prepare. They will attack again." Walked to the window of his command center. Earth hung in the darkness below him. Such a small world. Such weak creatures. How were they causing so much trouble? "I have conquered 40 worlds," he said quietly. "I have faced species with better weapons, bigger armies, stronger ships. All of them fell before the Empire. Why do these humans refuse to fall?" His officer hesitated before answering. Perhaps they do not know they cannot win." Turned sharply. "What do you mean?" "Every species we conquered understood the mathematics. They counted our ships. They counted their ships. They saw they could not win, so they surrendered. Logical, efficient. But these humans," the officer shook his head, "they see the same mathematics and they fight anyway." "That is stupidity." "Maybe, or maybe it is something else. Something we do not have a word for." On the ground, was experiencing exactly what the officer described. His unit had been pushed back 3 times. He had lost 20 soldiers. His ammunition was running low. They kept coming in waves, endless waves of gray-skinned warriors with red weapons. A normal commander would have ordered a retreat. A normal soldier would have looked for a way to escape. Was not feeling normal. "Bring me more bombs," he told his engineers. "Sir, we do not have many left." "Then bring me fuel. We will make our own." His soldiers looked at him with tired eyes. They were exhausted. They were scared. But when they saw still standing, still fighting, they found strength they did not know they had. "For Earth," someone said. Others repeated it, "For Earth." It became a chant, "For Earth, for Earth, for Earth." Smiled. This was what they did not understand. Humans were not just bodies and weapons. They were ideas. They were feelings. They were stubborn, crazy, beautiful creatures who would rather die standing than live on their knees. The next wave came, was waiting for them. His engineers had built fire traps from fuel tanks. When the aliens entered the square, pressed a button. The square became an ocean of flame. Soldiers screamed as they burned. Their armor protected them from bullets but not from fire. "Advance," ordered. His soldiers charged through the smoke. They found surviving aliens and finished them. They took their weapons and used them against the next wave. By sunset, Seoul was still free. By midnight, reports came in from around the world. London was still free. Tokyo was still free. New York was still free. Every major city had held. They had landed with 100,000 soldiers. By the end of the first day of ground combat, they had lost 60,000. Admiral received the reports with quiet pride. "They did not expect this," she said to Commander. "No one expects humans to fight this hard. We do not even expect it of ourselves sometimes." Looked at the casualty list. 8,000 human soldiers dead. 8,000 heroes who would never see their families again. She would remember every name. "Tell the ground forces to rest in shifts," she ordered. "We'll try again tomorrow. We need to be ready." "And our space forces?" "Captain squadrons attack in 4 hours. We will not give them a moment of peace." The tide was turning, slowly, painfully, with blood and fire and sacrifice. But it was turning. And they were beginning to learn something they had never known before. They were learning fear. 3 weeks had passed since they arrived. 3 weeks of blood, fire, and death. Admiral stood in the command center looking at the map of Earth. The sky was still dark with alien ships, but there were fewer of them now, much fewer. "Status report," she ordered. Commander pulled up the numbers. "Enemy fleet reduced to 400 ships. We have destroyed or disabled the rest. Ground forces report that presence has been eliminated in most major cities. They are pulling back to fortified positions." "Casualties." Paused. This was the hard part. 50,000 military dead. Unknown civilian casualties, probably in the tens of thousands. Several cities have been damaged badly. Some are completely destroyed. Closed her eyes. 50,000 soldiers. Families without mothers and fathers. Children without parents. Friends without friends. This victory, if they could call it that, had cost everything. And the estimated 200,000 dead. Their ground forces are almost completely destroyed. Their fleet is damaged and running low on supplies. "They will call for reinforcements," said. "The Empire has many fleets." "Yes, but reinforcements would take months to arrive, and we are getting stronger every day." It was true. Humans around the world had been working non-stop. Factories built weapons day and night. Scientists developed new technologies based on captured alien equipment. Pilots trained on modified fighters that were faster and more deadly than before. The first week had been survival. The second week had been resistance. The third week had been pushing back. "Captain is requesting permission to lead the final assault," said. Nodded. "Tell her permission granted. It is time to end this." In orbit above Earth, Captain gathered her squadrons. She had started with 12 pilots. Now she commanded 300. Some were experienced fighters who had survived from the beginning. Others were new pilots who had trained in the heat of battle. All of them were ready. "Listen up," said through the radio. "The flagship is alone now. Their escort ships have been destroyed or scattered. High Commander is trapped up there with nowhere to run." "What are our orders?" asked Wolf 5. Had survived all 3 weeks. He was not the youngest pilot anymore. He had aged 10 years in 20 days. "We take out the flagship. We capture or kill. We end this war." The squadrons formed up. 300 human fighters against one massive alien warship. The flagship was 10 kilometers long. It had weapons that could destroy cities. It had shields that had survived hundreds of attacks. But it was alone, and it was scared. "All wings attack formation," ordered. "Target their shield generators first, then their weapons, then their engines. Leave the command center for last. I want alive if possible." The attack began. Human fighters swarmed around the flagship like insects around a giant. The alien weapons fired, trying to swat them away. But there were too many targets, moving too fast, coming from too many directions. Shield generators down, someone reported. Their main shields are failing. Push forward, hit them with everything. Missiles flew, lasers burned. The flagship began to break apart piece by piece. Weapons towers exploded. Hull plates tore away. Fires spread through the massive ship. Inside the flagship, watched his empire crumble. Commander, an officer said desperately, "We must retreat. We can still escape." "Retreat where?" asked. His voice was quiet, broken. "Back to the Empire to tell them that I lost to primitives, that humans defeated the. We can return with a larger fleet, destroy this world completely." Shook his head. "It would not matter. Word has already spread. Other species are watching. Conquered worlds are hearing what humans did here. If we run away now, rebellions will start everywhere." He looked at the screen showing the battle. Human ships everywhere. His beautiful flagship burning. "I have spent my life conquering," said. "I believed we were the strongest species in the galaxy. I believed no one could stand against us. Commander, I was wrong." The command center shook as another explosion hit nearby. Lights flickered. Alarms screamed. "This is Wolf Leader to flagship," his voice came through the communication system. "Your ship is disabled. Your weapons are destroyed. Your shields are down. Surrender now and we will take prisoners." Walked slowly to the communication panel. He pressed the button to respond. "Human pilot," he said. "I am High Commander of the Empire. I have commanded fleets that burned worlds to ash. I have destroyed civilizations that were ancient when your species was learning to walk." "Is that a no?" asked. "I am telling you this because I want you to understand something. The Empire will not forget what happened here. We will return with more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. And we will be waiting." Was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. There was something in it that sounded almost like respect. "Yes, I believe you will be." He cut the communication. Then he looked at his remaining officers. "We will not surrender," he announced. "But we will not continue this pointless fighting either. I am ordering the remaining ships to retreat, return to space, tell the Empire what happened here. Commander, without you, I will stay. Someone must answer for this failure. Let it be me." The surviving ships began to pull back. One by one, they turned away from Earth and accelerated toward the stars. Human fighters escorted them to the edge of the solar system, making sure they did not try any tricks. Then they were gone. On the flagship sat alone in his command chair. His ship was dead around him. Life support failing, fires everywhere, but he did not try to escape. His fighter landed in the flagship's damaged hangar bay. She walked through twisted metal and burning debris until she found the command center. Was waiting for her. "Human pilot," he said, "you fight well, better than anyone we have faced." "My name is Captain." Captain nodded. "I will remember that name, and so will my people. Your fleet is gone. Your invasion has failed. Earth is free." For now stood up from his chair. His gray skin was covered with burns and wounds, but his yellow eyes were still sharp. "The Empire will return, maybe not for years, maybe not for decades, but they will return." Raised her weapon but did not fire. "Then we will be ready, again." Almost smiled. It looked strange on his alien face. "I believe you will, Captain. That is what frightens me." He reached into his belt and pulled out a small device. Before could react, he pressed it. A single beep sounded. What was that? "A distress beacon. My officers will find my body and return it to space. I want them to see what a human victory looks like. I want them to understand what they will face if they return." Collapsed. The wounds he had hidden were too severe. He had been dying since the battle started. He had just wanted to deliver one final message. Watched him die. Then she turned and walked back to her fighter. On Earth, people were coming out of their shelters for the first time in weeks. They looked up at the sky. The darkness was fading. The alien ships were gone. Admiral stood outside the command center. The sun was rising for the first time in almost a month. Its light touched her face, warm and golden. Commander stood beside her. "We did it," he said. "We actually did it." "We survived," corrected. "The next part is harder, rebuilding, preparing, making sure we are ready when they come back." "Do you think they will come back?" Watched the sun rise. She thought about the 50,000 soldiers who had died, the families who had lost everything, the cities that would take years to rebuild. "They will come back," she said. "And when they do, they will find a very different Earth, not a world of divisions and conflicts, a world united, a world armed, a world that knows it can win." Lieutenant joined them on the rooftop. His uniform was torn and dirty. He had not slept in days, but he was smiling. "My soldiers are asking when they can go home," he said. Smiled back. "Tell them soon, tell them they earned it." Captain's fighter appeared in the sky, descending toward the landing pad. She had done it. She had ended the war. When she climbed out of her cockpit, her legs almost gave out. 3 weeks of constant fighting had pushed her past every limit she thought she had. But she was alive. Earth was free. Walked over to her and put a hand on her shoulder. "Well done, Captain." "Thank you, Admiral." Looked up at the clear sky. "Is it really over?" "This battle is over, but there will be more battles, more enemies. The galaxy is watching us now. They know what humans can do." "And what is that?" Thought for a moment. "We refuse to give up. We fight when we should run. We win when we should lose, and we never ever kneel." She looked at her officers, at her soldiers, at the civilians coming out to see the sunrise. All of them had fought. All of them had sacrificed. All of them had proved that humans were something special. The demanded war, said. Humans responded without hesitation. Let the galaxy remember that. The sun rose higher. The first day of peace had begun. But in the hearts of every human, a new fire was burning. Not a fire of war, a fire of pride. They had been tested. They had not been found wanting. And they would be ready for whatever came next.